Home Secretary Suella Braverman has been out on the airwaves bragging that the government has met its target to recruit 20,000 new police officers. The problem is, that just fills a gap caused by previous Tory cuts. Let's see how that went down on ITV's Good Morning Britain.
Tell us whether you've filled the gap in the numbers of police officers that have been lost over the past few years.
We're very confident that we are on track to meet our manifesto commitment to have recruited 20,000 new police officers. And we look forward to the announcement to be made later today. Just to correct you, Susanna, we're not filling a gap. We are going, and if we do achieve this target, we will have a record number of police officers ever in the history of policing in England and Wales. So that's higher than any figure that the previous Labour administrations will have reached.
You came to government and there were around 142,000 police officers in England and Wales. And in 2022, there were around 142,000 police officers in England and Wales. In the meantime, under your government, the numbers went down to 121,929 in 2017. So when I say you're just filling the gap, you are simply just filling the gap.
As I said, we're very confident that we're not filling any gaps. We're actually bringing in a new generation.
You lost 20,000 police officers, Home Secretary, during the course of your government.
We're confident that we're on track to have a record number, so higher than any previous number recorded when it comes to the number of officers working in our police. Do you acknowledge that in
2017, under your government, 20,000 police officers were cut from our police forces?
What I do acknowledge and what I'm here to celebrate is the hard work put in by police chiefs all around the country.
Well, I'm sure we celebrate that. My question was, do you acknowledge that under your government, 20,000 police officers were cut?
Again, I've repeated myself twice already, but I'll say it again.
I know, because you're not answering the question. My question was, do you acknowledge that 20,000 police officers were cut?
Isn't the answer just yes, Home Secretary?
If we meet our target, and we're confident that we're going to, we will have surpassed any number that was on the books even prior to 2010. So that represents a record number, higher than the Labour years, higher than previous administrations. So looking at what's happened in the last 10 years is somewhat of an irrelevance.
Looking at what's happened in the last 10 years is somewhat of an irrelevance. I cannot believe she thinks she's going to get away with that. We've had a Conservative government for 13 years. I mean, yeah, it was a coalition government for the first 5 years, but they completely ran every single public institution in the country to the ground. And now they're saying, oh, forget about that. Completely irrelevant. Not we've learned from our mistakes. Look, I wasn't part of that government. I don't actually think I agree. I mean, obviously she voted for all these things at the time, right? Completely irrelevant. What I supported 5 years ago, what I supported 10 years ago, we're now seeing the results of that. Yeah, nothing to do with me though. Please, 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 can you just pretend the last 13 years of austerity didn't happen? And of course, these things matter, right? We see the same situation in so many of these institutions, which is, one, if you degrade them for 10 years, yeah, those are pretty awful 10 years in terms of how the service works. And then what the Conservatives do is they think, oh, we've actually run this too far into the ground. We're going to quickly try and bring it back to where it was. Now, they've done that with the NHS. The NHS, they sort of squeezed funding for ages and ages and ages. Then obviously COVID led to it to collapse. And then they flood it with money, essentially. But that doesn't really work, because what you have to do to make public services run properly is have long-term plans for them. You can't just say, oh, we're going to cut them for 10 years, then we're going to magically employ another 20,000 people over a space of 5 years and everything's going to work out okay. And that's what they've done here. With the police, this poses a particular problem, because if you've cut the police by 20,000 and then suddenly you realize, oh, everyone hates us for this, we've got to try and get us back to where we were, then that means you have to recruit 20,000 people in a very short space of time. And what's going to happen if you try and recruit 20,000 people into the police force? You know, lots of dodgy people want to join the police. You know, some good people want to join the police as well, but lots of dodgy people want to join the police. And you're giving them a lot of power. If you are trying to, in a mad dash, recruit all of these people, then that's going to lead to some obvious problems. That was a concern expressed by former Detective Superintendent Shabnan Chowdhury, who served over 30 years in the Met.
Are you confident about the quality of that 20,000, considering this information?
Absolutely not. I think that this is a numbers game. This is about quantity and not quality of police officers. You only need to look at some of the officers that have either been convicted, those that are subjected to charge for serious offences. Look at what happened with the murderer of Sarah Everard. He came into the Metropolitan Police in 2018, despite the fact that he's referred to as the rapist. So you've not just got new recruits coming in that are potentially corrupt. You've also got officers that have been sitting within policing for decades that have displayed red flag behaviours who have actually got away with corruption and are still sitting in policing. It's a mountain to climb.
It's a difficult one, right? Because I don't want the Conservative Party to reach their ambition of hiring 20,000 more police officers, because to me, even having that as a goal is about saying all of the socioeconomic and health problems that we have caused due to, over 10 years of austerity, instead of actually trying to tackle the root causes of that, because obviously socioeconomic inequality and exploitation has social consequences. Instead of trying to actually tackle those root causes, we're just going to try and police it out of existence. So instead of responding with better economic opportunity, with mental health support, with other forms of health support, we're just going to resort to containment, to violence, to surveillance, to, all of these kind of tools of policing that I don't think actually adequately respond to those issues. So to me, the entire idea of expanding policing is about papering over what are socioeconomic and social problems and social consequences of the inequality that we have in this country today. I think that, the £750 million that has been put into just creating more recruitment adverts for the Met Police would be better put towards solutions of care, towards ensuring that everyone has the material basis to live in dignity, and so don't have to, resort to criminal practice in order to make ends meet. So I think that is really my approach to this whole thing. It's really important to not say that the problem of racism and sexism and violence in the police is a consequence of a recent drop in recruitment standards. These have always been problems in the police. What's happening now, they might have gotten slightly worse due to a drop in recruitment standards, but the difference now is that we are, for so many different reasons, more able to come forward and have examples of and be critical of the police in different ways.